Okay, welcome back. The next lesson I want to cover is inside the actual code book. I want to show you how to size the floor joist. This is an important topic because you got to know what size lumber you need to buy in order to cover the floor joist, in order to get the floor joist span covered. First, you notice we are in Chapter 5 of the code book. I will provide you with a link. This is Chapter 5. And notice if you turn your tablet sideways, it makes it harder to work. So the best way to use this is holding it down like this, okay? Okay. So now that we're in Chapter 5, you notice that this is a very familiar picture that I showed you in a previous presentation. But it is part of Chapter 5, and you guys are welcome to read all over these codes. But what we're looking at is these charts right here. And there's a series of these charts. Like here's one, here's another one. Okay. And what these charts are referencing is what size floor joist can I use depending on the situation. So typically in residential construction, you either build to a live load of 40 PSF, pounds per square foot, or 30 PSF. Typically bedrooms are 30. I'm sure just because the weight factor is less in a bed for some reason. But I always say, whenever in doubt, always go to the most restrictive. And in this case, the most restrictive is going to be the 40. So if it's unknown, of course, you can look it up. You can look it up on your blueprints. You can look up the chart that has live load areas in different areas and make sure you're building accordingly. But whenever in doubt, always go to the most restrictive. And you have two things here, a dead load of 10 and a dead load of 20. Both charts are set up that way. Again, I'm going to tell you to go to the most restrictive if you don't know, but your blueprints will highlight your dead loads per square foot. Typically it is right here, and that's the safest bet. But you know, in attic spaces and stuff like that where there's no storage or something, there may be 10 pounds per square foot may be allowed. All right, so knowing that we're going to stick to the 20, so right here we're going to stick to the live load of 40 and a dead load of 20. The question becomes, what size floor joist can I get? Well, the next thing you're going to want to know is your on-center spacing, and that's right here in this column. So we can go through here. Now normally 16-inch on centers is your most predominant, but you can see they got 12, 16s, 19.2s, and 24-inch on centers covered. So no matter what you do, up to 24-inch on centers is covered per code book. We're going to stick with the 16 again because that's the most common. The next thing that you want to look at is the type of wood you're purchasing. Now, if you go to Lowe's, what they usually call it is SPF. What that stands for is spruce pine fir, and it's usually number 2 grade. So the stuff you see at Lowe's, SPF number 2 grade, is very common. If you were to call Lowe's and ask them what their wood is, they're just going to call it pine. Most of the people that work at Lowe's in the retail department have no idea about the wood that they sell. That's okay because that's for us to know. So typically Lowe's and Home Depot are both going to sell an SPF number 2 pine. But how do you know that? You look at that grade stamp. The grade stamp, if it says SPF number 2, you know exactly what you're working with. So knowing that this is the most popular, I can see it, SPF number 2 is right there. That's that line. So If I told you I had a live load of 40 pounds per square foot, a dead load of 20 pounds per square foot, we were building 16-inch on centers, we were using spruce pine fir SPF number 2, then I know I would be in this general vicinity of my allowable spans. Okay, so again, this is going to be a 2x12 all the way up down to a 2x6, I believe. Yeah, 2x12 right here. 2x10, 2x8, 2x6. So knowing this, I can go back down here. It's hard to get it all on one screen, but that's okay. We can pull it off. SPF. We're going to be in that block right there. So if the question would be, how far can I span using a 2x12? Sorry, I got a little messed up on the writing there. So a 2x12, the answer would be 16 foot 3 inches. Which is good because at Lowe's, I think the longest that you can buy is 16 foot anyway, so it actually kind of works out pretty close. If I were using a 2x10, the longest span would be 14.1, and then a 2x8 and a 2x6. So it stands to reason the bigger the wood, the 2x12 is going to span the greatest distance. So, and normally, not all the time, but normally the two that you use the most for floor joists is 2x10s or 2x12s. Those are your pick your litters. Nobody's building houses using 2x6 as floor joists. Under very rare circumstances would that ever come into play. But nonetheless, so the 2x10s and the 2x12s are the two you're going to want to know the most. So if there was two numbers on this chart that I could highlight as being important, the two I would highlight to you would be these two. Out of all these charts, 14.1 and 16.3. Because that tells me the distance I can span with a 2x10 under normal operating conditions with the SPF number 2 and a 16 foot 3 tells me the distance I can span with a 2x12. So I'm going to put a link to this code book in the section on this, but you guys are going to have to come up here, and I'm going to have a problem where you look up the actual. I'm going to give you the parameters, but I want you to look it up. So maybe I'll throw you a Douglas fir one and see what it spans. But definitely understanding these charts is important, so you guys understand how to answer the question of what size floor joist I need given the situation. Okay, so what happens if you have a span of 30 feet? You just simply put a steel beam down the center again. So if you were trying to, if you had a basement wall and an outside basement wall here, and you were spanning 30 feet from here to here, you know that you can go up to 16.3 with the 2x12s. You would have the beam here with posts in your basement. Your floor joists would span over to this beam and would overlap at the center and go the other distance here. So I know my drawing's not very good, but hopefully you guys are making sense of this. It's hard to draw with your finger. But anyways, if you get a chance, go ahead and scroll through this book. I did cover some building codes with you as it pertained to the floor joists. Here is one that I covered with you guys, drilling and notching of floor joists. So these rules are in here as we stated. Okay. Here's the floor sheeting one that I know I covered with you. So if you get a chance, make sure you guys thumb through this and take a look at some of the building codes as they relate. But definitely know where the floor joist question is, because I'm going to have you guys answer a question as it pertains to the length of floor joists. All right, I wish you best luck. Have a good day.